And we are live at 5. Welcome once again, everyone. My name is Nick Saponaro, and this is your Divi weekly update. I'm super excited once again to be here. I'm super excited that all of you have joined me once again being here. It's been a great week. It's been a really, really productive week, and I'm excited to elaborate on what I'm talking about. So before we get into any of the development updates or anything like that, let's talk about the numbers. First of all, beta signups. Absolutely crushing it. Almost 12,000 signups. We're at 11,547 and counting. It grows every day. Make sure if you haven't signed up for the beta, you do so at diviwallet.com. On the masternode subject, we did hit a new all-time high. Now, you guys might remember, if you watched last week's video, that we were having some issues with DigitalOcean. We've resolved those issues. We've made some upgrades to the masternodes themselves, and now we're at an all-time high of 1491. I think it's sitting at 1490 actual masternodes right now. Now, what's cool about this? What's really interesting about our network is that you guys know we have different tiers. So each masternode requires a different collateral to set up, and we have the 5 different levels. What's interesting is if we only had copper, if we only had the copper tier, we'd have about 9,500 masternodes on this network. It's extremely decentralized. It's extremely secure. There's over 900 million Divi locked up in masternodes right now. It is very, very difficult to achieve that level of decentralization and security on any other type of network. So pat yourselves on the back for being a part of that. Let's move on to development. In dev news, some awesome wins this week. This week, we are having our release candidate for the desktop wallet, the wallet that most of you guys use today. We'll have an update. We're looking at probably Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Right now, it's going into testing, the final release candidate. It's auto-updating. It's got some new features. It is beautiful. I'm really excited to finally get that out to you guys, especially as we come up to the impending fork at the end of this month. Also in development news, we have a new beta version, or alpha version, I should say, of the iOS wallet. So on iOS, the beta bashers just got a new version that they're testing the new onboarding, getting their wallets set up, settings, changing their profile pictures, setting their Face ID, those types of things all are being tested right now, among other things. Exciting times. Our team is really, really gelling right now. A lot of really incredible progress as far as the mobile wallet is concerned. We are on track for that November beta release 1, as I announced last week. In Siege World's news, looking really good as well. The alpha demo should be ready for in the next couple of weeks. We actually have a new video that I'll play for you. Huh? What's that? Right, so amazing progress on Siege Worlds. Obviously, you guys saw the Redivi bank in there. Cool little addition. The alpha demo probably won't have the Redivi map in it, but we will be doing some alpha testing soon on Siege Worlds. Very exciting stuff there. Chalk as well is going really well. We just finished our first week of beta testing there. So anybody from the Divi community who has joined us on Chalk, we really appreciate it. Everyone is welcome to join. We're giving away free money for helping us test. If you want to learn more about that, reach out to us or go to chalkapp.co. Next up. So as you guys know, we've been doing this, I guess, 6 weeks now? Something like that? 5-6 weeks. This amazing Divi Live at 5 video. I think it's going pretty well so far, trying different formats and things like that, in an effort to make these a little bit more engaging for people that may not just be here for Divi content, and to hopefully bring people who are not just Divi fans into the ecosystem and into our community. I and the team have sort of devised a strategy to change the format to allow for a little bit more interesting content to come toward the end. Part of that effort is bringing on guests. The guest I'm going to bring on today, his name is Brian Colwell. He goes by Crypto Hobbit. He just came on to the Divi team recently as a writer, and you may have read his blog on our blog this week about the fourth industrial revolution. Incredible article. Go to blog.diviproject.org if you haven't read it after the video. Don't be reading while we're talking here. It's rude. Anyway, he's a really cool guy. I'm going to bring him on right now, and we're going to talk about some very, very interesting topics that pertain to us all. Brian, how's it going, man?
Hey-o! Good.
What's up, man?
Hey.
So, obviously, Brian Colwell, you're an influencer in the Twitter scape on crypto Twitter. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself before we jump into the topic?
Yeah, well, I actually came into the crypto space from research. I had a background in financial services, and I was a certified financial planner. And my last full-time gig in financial services was as a portfolio strategist with a specialization in alternative investments. And I worked a lot with commodities and hedge funds and alternative investments like futures and derivatives and things like that. It ended up leading me to research on industrial revolutions and technology that some of these hedge funds were investing in. And from there, I learned about blockchain, Bitcoin, and long story short, ended up going full-time crypto in 2016.
Very cool. And anyone who's full-time crypto knows that it is not an easy transition, but it can be a really rewarding one. And I think you've probably seen that. So obviously we have you here today to talk about a topic that probably not a lot of people are discussing, but probably should be, the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, absolutely. So I initially started researching the fourth industrial revolution in 2012. And that was all around the time that the Mayan calendar was going to end, and there was going to be like a new turning, and people didn't know what was going to be happening. Oh no, but then nothing happened. People just went about their lives. But 2012 was kind of a turning point, and what people thought was going to end up being automation running the planet really ended up starting to become blockchain technologies that are leading people to achieve their own independence financially, then also in terms of new forms of governance. So the main part of the first article in this series was to discuss the cycles of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions, where we start to see some cycles, some similarities that will allow us to draw some correlations to what's happening right now. So everything that we're feeling right now is not really unique. It's all happened before. So it's not different this time. What is different this time is how we achieve success. That's different in every industrial revolution. But the cycles of the industrial revolution aren't really open to debate. So we see in the first, second, third, and also now the fourth industrial revolution, innovation leading to disruption and then yielding some sort of wide-scale economic unrest and geopolitical tensions that oftentimes lead to warfare. So, and that's across all industrial revolutions that we've seen in America. And where we're at right now really is open to debate. It's kind of a fun conversation to think about where we're at, because in 2020, it's not a question of whether we entered a new phase. It's a question of what phase we're in, really. So, and I think this is the fun part to talk to and to ask anybody in the conversation too that's listening is what part of the cycle are we in? Are we seeing now the economic unrest cycle, or do we look at the pandemic as the warfare that we have to fight?
That's an interesting perspective, you know, seeing the pandemic almost as a form of warfare. I think, you know, just from my personal perspective, we are beginning to see the economic unrest, right? That's
my view, yeah.
Right. I mean, we just saw GDP retract, 32% in the United States, and it's retracting in other countries worldwide. You know, the recession really started in 2018. but it's really starting to ramp up right now. Of course, the pandemic is exacerbating that issue. I think we're really just starting the economic unrest phase. You agree?
I do agree. And then actually, we're going to talk about that in the next blog in the series that I'm writing right now, which is where we're going to be talking about innovation and disruption, but also the opportunity that those yield for those of us that are able to recognize the cycles and then reskill and prepare ourselves in advance of those disruptions and movements, whether it's changes in job or politics or even geography. So even, for example, you're in California, you're seeing a lot of climate change impact right now in California, and we're not expecting that kind of impact to go away. We're expecting it to become an even bigger deal. And in Arizona, where I'm at, we had the hottest summer on record. So, and we're not expecting that to change either. So even just climate change can cause all kinds of economic unrest as people have to move around.
Yeah, it's a strange and interesting time to be alive. But I think, no matter how much information we gather, and of course, information is our best weapon as individuals, as people who don't really have control over the overarching themes of life, especially climate change and things of that nature. With this information, what do we do? What does the average person do right now?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. And initially, my thought process in researching these industrial revolutions and putting together some correlations in the cycles was to figure out how to invest in the different kinds of technologies that would be leading the disruptions. So I had talked about Amazon being a big 4IR technology company back in 2012, and also cloud technology companies like Microsoft, and also in 2017 I wrote articles about NVIDIA and AMD being important for the growth of not just mining technologies and blockchain, but also for graphics and rendering and for achieving a metaverse, a virtual reality metaverse. So I think that, but getting back to your point about the economic unrest, though, I think it's important to note too, like you mentioned, that the recession actually started in 2018. We're also seeing huge consolidation in the stock market at the top level with those tech companies. And recently, Apple alone became as large as the Russell 2000, I think it was, all the small cap stocks. So just that alone, we see that kind of consolidation, and it does start to become worrisome. I think that when we talk about valuation, I think is ridiculous. And then we also, for the first time now, see Warren Buffett actually taking a stand and buying gold. And he hates gold. Warren Buffett says, I think it was something like, I hate gold. Gold doesn't make any sense because you have to dig it out of the earth just to stick it back in the earth somewhere.
And he invested in a mining operation.
Right. But so he recently took a stand on gold, and on top of it, we had George Soros beginning of the year shorting a bunch of commercial real estate. So I think it's just there's a lot of movement financially as people place bets on this. And what do we do now? Getting back to that last question, is we have to kind of follow the money and look where the money is going. I think rather than fighting the disruption, we have to yield with the disruption and be flexible and be adaptable. That's where it really comes to. And that's part of one of the points of writing this series of blog posts. It's not just the educational part, but it's also to talk about Divi's role in the fourth industrial revolution in terms of yielding convenience, digital payments, security, and a new form of infrastructure too.
Right. And we've seen more than ever, the digital world, and you just talked about, digital metaverses, which sounds probably crazy to some people, but when you consider that a large majority of especially young people are literally living within these metaverses, and that could be a video game, that could be virtual reality, I just did a conference basically in a video game. Travis Scott is doing concerts within virtual worlds. I think it's not so far-fetched to believe, especially now that so many of us are working from home and will be up through a lot through 2021, that we could potentially be living in sort of a metaverse of digital world. And what facilitates, right, exactly. And what facilitates commerce better in the digital world than digital finance. I feel like it's all coming into play, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
all falling into
friction.
place.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen gracefully, right? And I think that's kind of the theme of your blog series, right?
Right, absolutely. So there's going to be a talk in the next one on the disruptions, and then disruptions not just economically, but also in terms of political disruptions, and then really talking about and leading to blockchain digital payments as an opportunity for us to achieve a level of independence that we haven't been able to have since the middle class was first created in the second industrial revolution. The third industrial revolution destroyed the middle class completely. And so now there is no American middle class. And then actually, just recently, the middle class was redefined in America. And I think now you're considered a middle class if you make as a family like 40,000 or more a year, and which is also ridiculous because most families, like in California, try living on $40,000 a year.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So instead of having a real middle class, what they've tried to do is what the government is trying to do, and the Fed has done is redefine what the middle class actually is. But you and I both know that with our cost of living going up, with the pandemic actually pushing up the cost of a lot of goods, everything from toilet paper to red meat has gone up in price. And on top of that, on top of the cost of living going up, we're seeing our spending power going down with inflation and mass printing and mass debt. So looking at the debt clock alone is a scary thing that will show the truth of that. We can look at our own, what the government has assigned as our individual portion of debt. Most of us are already bankrupt and we don't know it. So, right. So the only way for us to achieve that independence, like you said, what do? Is we have to play within that system, play with the technologies that we have, and stay ahead of that economic fallout by embracing technologies like blockchain and like Divi.
I think it's really important to, and those were all amazing points, and you've clearly researched this to a very, very, very deep level, and you understand it. But it's important for those that are just coming into the realization of a lot of these things, that although it feels doom and gloom, although it feels like a scary thing, you are already in a position where you can make a difference for your own future, right? And that's where blockchain comes in, cryptocurrency. If you just pay attention to even the basics, you can set yourself up to be a part of the next definition of the middle class, or even better, and they'll continue to reframe everything to make it seem manageable. But really, I think we have to face reality head on and make a change in our own, the way we live in our own lives. And that's how you enact change moving forward as a society. And we've seen candidates running for president that are more tech forward, Yang, and you've seen even Brock Pierce is running for president now, and he's very tech forward. And we'll continue to see that, I think, as sort of our generation becomes the leaders of this country. But it's important. But all I'm saying this for is, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not trying to scare anybody. It's just reality, and there is an answer, and you're engaging with it already, which is a massive step in the right direction, in my opinion.
I agree, and actually, I would say anybody already watching this has a step forward because they're already aware of Divi. And then now our next job is going to be for anybody that's watching this to share the video or to share the blog post and to engage other people in the conversation so that we can affect change as a people.
Definitely. Well, Brian, I'm really looking forward to the additional blog posts in this series.
Yeah, thank you.
And all of the posts that you come up with after the series. I'm really excited that you've joined the team, and I can't thank you enough for coming on to the Divi Live at 5 and talking to me.
Hey, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Well, guys, that was pretty interesting. Again, if you haven't checked out Brian Colwell's post, go to blog.diviproject.org and check that out. Now, that's pretty much everything for this Live at 5 update. I will wait around for a little bit and see if we have any questions. I have today, our producer is actually running the show, so I'm going to let him put any good questions up on the screen. I'll give it a minute or two. Yes. So, okay. Obviously, you see it on the screen. Has Divi considered taking Divi as a masternode payment? Yes, we have. We are working on it, and it will be an option in the upcoming wallet. Any other questions today? It's a Good Friday. We are recognizing a terrible event that happened in this country today. So anyone who is feeling that today, my heart is with you. It was a great tragedy, and the ripple effects we still feel today. Obviously, it's still something that we think about on this day. So, to those of you that were affected, like I said, my heart goes out to you. I hope that you can enjoy this day, despite the fact that we are in remembrance. It's still Friday, so try to enjoy your days. Do we have any other questions today, Frisco? Nothing going? That's a good question that Don Dondi just asked. If you want to put it up on the screen. How long do you picture Divi being a part of your life for? I can't really. It's funny because I don't really even remember my life before it. Like, it's hard to picture my life without Divi because it has become basically my whole life. I wake up in the morning and it's the first thing that I'm doing and thinking about, and it's the last thing I'm doing and thinking about before I go to bed. Despite anything, that's going on and any other sub projects that I might participate in, it's still always my main focus. I probably have more Divi shirts in my closet than I do other shirts. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say forever, but as long as possible. Does the amount of coins staked determine the payout ratio? I like this guy. It's a Grateful Dead bear avatar. Yes, it does. The more you stake, the more you earn. You will always earn the 456 Divi reward, and that'll go down at the end of October. I think that's when the big fork happens. But regardless, it's always the same amount, but the frequency increases with the number of coins that you have staked. So yeah, always the more you have at stake, the more you will earn, just like in real life. Will 2.0 integrate or implement credit card services later? Credit card, we will have debit card, obviously. Credit is a different system, and it does require some additional financial footwork. The licensure that we have does not allow us to do any sort of fractional reserve. So it doesn't make for a good credit card setup. We would have to have all of the money that we're lending in the bank. And I personally would not want to get into fractional reserve banking. It's caused quite a few issues in our own economy worldwide. And but that said, we may partner with a bank that offers credit cards or something like that, but it's not on the current roadmap. Does a certain country need to have a Redivi branch to maximize the remittance side of Divi? No. The Redivi can remit to any. I mean, it could remit to Western Union or whoever. It doesn't require 2 Redivi branches on either side. Any other questions today for us? We are coming to that half-hour mark, so probably call it unless I see something else pop up. As you guys know, I appreciate the community more than anything. You guys are the lifeblood of our ecosystem, and I can't thank you enough for joining me each Friday at 5 p.m. PST for these Divi updates. I hope you enjoyed the new format. I look forward to any new guests and opportunities that this opens us up to. Obviously, you will see us next week, but until then, you should find us on social media at Divi Project across all channels. Come ask questions on Telegram at Divi Project. Can't thank Brian Colwell enough for coming on and educating us on the 4th Industrial Revolution, #4IR. Look for that on Twitter, and I will see you guys next time.